So looking at how we can use older assignments and other tools to our advantage here, this is looking at a traditional system, basically inscribing a rectangle in here to form a tetrad. We could go to our additive wheels. So in this case, identifying hues to see whether it's correctly a rectangle or some other shape is a possibility. Go ahead and find another one here that'll be more appropriate. So this would be one, I think, from one of the examples you probably saw at some point. So what we could do is use the lasso tool. This is the geometric one, and we could inscribe basically that primary example for a tetrad using this. And what I'll do is I'll put a stroke in here. And you could do this other ways. There's obviously many ways to do this that would probably be quicker and easier. I just don't want to introduce any new tools for this process. So I'm going to do a stroke of about 3 to make this plenty big, center it, and then what you could do at this point is kind of rotate this around if you were wanting to find something. And now there's another couple ways that this could be done as well, but let me go to Edit, Transform, excuse me there. I need to select it. I'm sorry, I was supposed to have done that on a separate layer, but I can do that now. Let's go ahead and get rid of the other one. So from here we can kind of rotate that around if we wanted to, and we could use this to identify hues for our tetrad. Basically, we can take it to a protractor if we felt that we really wanted to be very precise, but something like this, we would know this is hue 30. We could count these off and figure out what the rest of these hues were, and it would be fairly precise as well. So it's another way of kind of doing this, but we could also create a different size rectangle, not necessarily a square, to do this. So I don't know if these are going to be the same size. This was a little bit bigger. I can transform that pretty quickly as well. Let's see, a little small, a little closer. That's going to have to do. Move that into position. And then we could rotate this around something like this as well, and kind of find those degrees a little bit more specifically, and not have to think about the numbers and doing the math if we wanted to. But this method would work just as well, identifying the hues and kind of sticking with those 15-degree transitions that were from this example. We could break this down further if we needed to, but going back to those older assignments and kind of using those, the older one that we have is 30 degrees. But again, these references, we can go back and use those. And remember that hue saturation tool allows us to shift those. If we're not comfortable with that, we start just shifting these hues and maintaining the points. Wrong layer, excuse me there. So here we can just shift it 5 degrees. Let's just shift it 50 degrees, and we can see what these hues are. Remember, the hue saturation tool, we can still take measurements in the color wheel, so we can see that 50 degrees. It went from hue 0 to hue 50 now, and so we can see what we like for those 4 hues, what they are now. If we had shifted it 50 degrees, we can go back and forth and follow those 4. That's going to make you a little dizzy, I imagine. But if you just had those 4 hues, probably best doing that on the harmony design. So if we went here, let me zoom out, zoom into the 4, and we do something like that here, we can see how those will change, and picking our 4 hues we want. And then we can also do the measurements. So we see 191, 281, and we're going to know these are 90 degrees apart because we set them up initially. And it allows us to kind of get some idea of how these are going to interact. In a situation like this, we've got that nice yellow for the lighter values. We've got the blue for some darker values. We've got a nice mix of warm and cool temperatures. So it's a way to kind of explore this quickly, while still understanding how these are created. So it is something I'm hoping everybody's familiar with at this point. But if you're not, just let me know. We can kind of go back through this. But these old tools that we have available to us that we've created, use them as a reference. They'll be helpful to you throughout this course and in future.